Hi, we're talking about the breaking the cycle, transforming our relationships from one side of the Venn diagram. And so we're starting with the power of accountability. And accountability is really taking ownership for yourself, for your internal values and beliefs, even when you are being implicitly pulled in other directions and wanting to kind of live within perceived expectations. And when we look at the cycle, and we'll talk about it in a couple weeks with universal constructs, we see emotional dysregulation. Our emotional expression creates cognitive distortions, which spurs up our attachment, which feeds our negative narrative, which pulls us into our past, occupying our present. We start to invoice, or we start to kind of interact with people based on our perceived reality. It creates perceived expectations of how we should or should not act, or how people should or should not act. It creates some type of emotional dysregulated state, either anger outburst or emotional outburst or shutting down. And then we're back into the emotional kind of space where we are kind of depicting where our emotions are, and emotions are happening, and that is happening very, very rapidly. And so when we are grounded and we neutralize that cycle, then we're not feeding it, and we can see people for what they're asking us to do, and we can react in a more individuated state. And so personal accountability is finding that individuated state and knowing what we want and what our values are, and sticking to them and not getting caught up in the spirals of the energy that surrounds us. And when we're looking at relationships, each one of us has, it's a Venn diagram. So we have our own cycle, and then we have the cycle of the interaction that is overlapping. And this can be a boss and you and a boss. It can be you and a coworker. It can be you and your partner. It can be you and a friend. It could be you and a family member. Relationships are an interaction between two people. And so each person has their cycle, and then what overlaps it is going to be the interaction. And so all it takes is one person to get into a negative cycle to feed the relationship, to implicitly ask the other person to get in a negative cycle, to force the other person in a negative. So when you stop your cycle and neutralize it, it neutralizes the relationship, and it forces the other person to contend with all the emotion that they have. They actually have to deal with it because they're not being enabled anymore to keep having these emotions. It feels very weird. It's like you're a 30-year-old man in the grocery store and you're having a temper tantrum because your girlfriend won't give you the candy bar. It's weird. These are not social norms, but yet we do it, and we feed it every day, and we make people seem like it's okay, and we trust ourselves, and we gaslight ourselves into thinking this must be okay. Like, clearly he's passionate about the candy bar, I should give it to him. No, you shouldn't have given, mother shouldn't have given it to him when he was 3, and you don't give it to him when he's 30. That's just the fact, is that it's enabling, and it's asking somebody to enable so that you can be in a victim mindset, and really you become a persecutor in order to become a victim, and then still asking for this rescuer. And that is what happens, is that we have this toxic dance. And the Cartman drama triangle is such a clear example of that, is that when you are wanting to take on a victim role, you will often come into, and I have a whole video about Cartman drama triangle, so take a look at it. The link will be in the video description. But you will find yourself in a victim, and you will go on and rescue other people, and you'll come on to there and let them be the victim so you can rescue. That's codependence, right? And then you will have an outlash. So you are technically a persecutor, but you find yourself in a victim state. Cartman drama triangle is you in a negative cycle, and you implicitly asking somebody or someone else in a negative cycle, implicitly asking you to come in And so I've seen this a lot with my couples therapy sessions. As you know, I get an individual therapy client, and a lot of it is about distress in the relationship. And so we talk a lot about, you have to ground, you have to find your individuated self. And it's not saying that, somebody brought to me a book, which essentially one of the chapters was, my therapist said, you're a narcissist. And that's not necessarily the case. As a therapist, you have to understand you're only getting one side of the story. But, as a good clinician and diagnostician, I can usually, because I am so closely connected and understand that behavior is predictable, I can tell you what people's traumas are, and I can tell you what their behaviors are. Based on knowing one, I can tell you the other, because it's cyclical, right? Everything is a triangle. There's usually 3 points to all of it. And so it's not that one person is trying to be malicious. It's that unless they're a sociopath, they're not trying to be malicious. They're trying to do the best that they can with what they were given. That's it. They're just doing the best they can with what they were given. And that may mean that they were taught to find these roles of outbursts in order to get attention. And that was the only way they could get their feelings validated, are through these outbursts or through shutting down. The only way that they could really find and figure their way out and feel safe is to shut down. And so when we understand that, then we understand the pattern of this triangulation, and we start breaking it down. We look at that toxic dance between rescuer, victim, and persecutor, that Cartman triangle, and we start to realize how important it is to start finding our emotional regulation stance. And how we're doing that is awareness, acceptance, and action. And the link to my book, Saying Goodbye to Bad Brain, talks all about the process that I go through with my clients, all of the transformation stories that are in there that I have used in order to help my clients find awareness, acceptance, and action. And really half of the book, the end half, is a lot of the action steps that I use. And those action steps are individualized based on where you are on your ability to be aware, your ability to accept, and then what is going on between your triggers, your past, your present, and your needs is how you're going to figure out what will work. But it's a great guideline to start understanding how this process unfolds. And when we're looking at these emotional regulation cycles, what we want to do is we want to be able to be grounded. We want to ground, and again, this is all in the book. We are first grounding, just staying present and being aware and saying, you know what, this is what I got to deal with it. Then that'll kick us into survival mode quickly. So we're staying grounded, and then we're doing positive affirmations. And positive affirmations it can be, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. But that usually feels false, and it feels fake, and it feels like we're just kind of sitting there rocking in the fetal position, be like, I swear I'm okay, I swear I'm okay, I swear I'm okay. And that's not what we want. Like, all that negative energy, gotta shake it out. Instead, positive affirmations are valid data points. What do you know that you've overcome? What do you know that makes you capable? What do you know that makes you confident? What do you know that makes you smart and intelligent? And put those things out there so that you don't just say these words because you're just kind of following a script, but you are sharing what your intention is. And that'll allow you to be available to see what is coming, to see, does this serve me? And what do I want to do with it? Do I want to be nurturing? Are they asking me to be a parent and they're taking on a child state? Do I want to be the grounded adult ego? What do I want to do with this? And then you can choose that, and you can say, I feel like I'm being asked to be a persecutor, and I don't want to take on a persecutor state, so I want to take a moment to ground. I'd like to come back in 20 minutes. We can set a timer, and I want to be able to have this conversation, but I want to own my experience, which is I'm not in a place where I can Be present right now. Owning your side of the street is the next thing of how we break these cycles. Focus on you. And what we often do is we're so worried about what our neighbor is doing, we forget to look at what is happening in ours, that our trash can hasn't been put up in a while, and our roses are looking pretty dingy, and our yard could use a little TLC. And so we start to be so consumed with cleaning the neighborhood and being aware of the neighborhood that we forget to look at our side of the street. And that is a part of that cycle, is that you are pulling yourself away because it's easier to be distracted and avoid. But when you are focused on you and your side of the street, people start to notice and they start to mirror the positive behaviors. They see the radical change. And Christianity, we call this when kind of being hit by the grace train. When you are hit by the grace train and you find and follow Jesus Christ, it should be a very dramatic change. People should be like, that is a very different person. What is she doing? What is going on? And that point is that when you are following your line, people notice it and they're like, man, like this is what I want. Like this is good energy. This is something I want to be around, and I can't just be around something like that willy-nilly. Like I want to be intentful too. They're intentful with me and I want to be intentful with them. And it's not like an overwhelmed pressure. It's this positive energy that is manifesting and pushing along. It's a positive cycle, which creates a positive relationship, which creates a need and a desire and a yearning to be positive when you interact with people like that. You don't feel like, well, I need to put on a suit and tie now because this girl's got some formal to her. She's just a little bit of an overachiever. No, because it's not coming from an anxious place seeking external validation. It's coming from a place of you loving yourself and being internally validated by yourself. And people see that calm. They see the weight lifted. They see so much value and joy in it, and they want to be a part of it. And so that is how we are taking care of our side of the street. And then what we're going to do is we're going to neutralize the conflict. And so when we see the negative energy come in and we value our joy and our peace, then what we're doing is we're owning our side of the street. We're saying, I feel like I am getting overwhelmed right now. I feel like I am being pulled into a negative space, and I don't want that. Like I am following peace and joy in my life, and this is a bit much. Can we take 10 minutes? Can we take an hour? I would never do over 2 hours, because then you're in an avoidance space. You don't need that much time. You are avoiding. But so find a very clear, definitive, give opportunity for the other person to have perceived control, and come back at it when both of you have taken time to ground and come forward. And they're going to say, well, what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to not be mad? And when you come in, you're like, I've done my box breathing. I've done my box breathing. And you come in and you say, okay, I heard you. I heard what you said. And it really upset me. But then I realized that I wasn't upset. That 10-year-old me was upset. And when I can realize that that was 10-year-old me and that's not me now, and you aren't trying to hurt me, but you're trying to help me, and that you're in an anxious place too. I see it. I see that you're trying to solve a problem right now that I didn't know was there. And it really scared me. But I can see now that I am not my 10-year-old self. I am a grown adult. That I am not scared, that this could be exciting, and so I don't need to be defensive, and I want to embrace. They're going to be like, what? And they're going to want to be like, wow, when you did that, I realized that I did this. And so when you start speaking a language, people pick that language up. And I feel, and owning your side of the street is a very important language to speak and to allow people to learn and speak with you. That is what I have on breaking those toxic dynamics and being able to rebuild a happy, healthy relationship just by controlling your side of the street. If you like this, please subscribe, hit the like button, a little thumbs up, and follow me for so many more great insights on how to live a happier and healthier life. Thank you so much.